Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio. Hello and happy Friday. I'm Holly Fry.
And I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
We talked about hydroponics this week.
We did.
One of my current obsessions, which is I'm in a dangerous place with the plant situation.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen here in this house.
Yeah. I was at a friend's house over the weekend, and it was not a hydroponic setup, but it was a bookshelf by the window that had a lot of plants on it. And we currently don't have a lot of indoor plants in our house because when we tried that, the cats liked to dig the dirt out with their paws.
Yeah.
They didn't use the bathroom in there, which would have been worse, but I was just constantly finding that the dirt had been put on the floor. And so I have thought of various strategies to try to do something else, some other plant setup that I haven't really worked out. But this shelf was so packed with plants that there would not really be a lot of room for a cat to get on there. And I was like, what if I did that? Would that work?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Your girls are also going to hit that age, right? They're 6?
They were born in 2019. So almost
they'll turn 6 this year. Most cats, this is my experiential evidence, having had many cats, in the ages of 6 to 7, and then again at 12 to 13, they have a little like gear shift in terms of their behavior and energy where they just chill out a little bit. Yeah. So maybe they'll also be like, it's fine. I don't care now.
Don't care about it.
My hydroponic garden is in our cantina where the cats don't generally go. It is Star Wars themed because the idea is that we will have fresh garnish for our cocktails at all times.
Right. You told me that, and I was like, what a great idea.
Oh, it's so good. Fresh mint is where it's at. You got to be careful with mint because it will take over. But we're also growing lettuce and peppers and other things. But I'm obsessed with it. The first thing I do every morning is I look at the camera when I wake up to see the plants downstairs. And then when I drag my badonk out of bed, I make a coffee and I go sit with the plants downstairs. But there's an offshoot of this, which is that I always like plants, and I have gone through various periods where I'm like, I'm in a garden. And I have mixed results, usually because I end up moving things outside when it gets nice, and because it's Georgia and our yard gets a lot of sun during the day. Some plants that, even though they say full sun, cannot hack it.
Can't do it. No.
And they either perish or I try to move them inside and they become confused and they shut down. But this time I'm like, you know what? We'll put some stuff outside, but I'm going to focus on developing a whole indoor growing setup. So in addition to the hydroponic garden, in our gym, which we're now calling the jungle gym because it too has many, many plants in it. I have a lot of grow lights and a lot of setup. And I knew it was a lot when my dear friend who watches our cats when we travel and is also like a sibling to me and is also a very accomplished gardener. She had come over to meet our new kitties, and I was like, I should show you our garden setup in the gym so that next time you have to watch the cats that I might need some watering help. And I opened the door and she went, oh my God. And I was like, well, it's good for me. Yeah. But also I love it. It's very good for my mental health. I'm telling you, my therapist has signed off. I feel like I could probably deduct the plant costs. I won't. It's fine. I said to you before we started that I can't decide if Garricky was a pill or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like I want to not be judgmental, and I really honestly do see a way where the real problems were just that sometimes people do not agree. And when it's a science like that is just getting its footing in terms of public recognition, everybody has a different take, and they may very well feel affronted by the takes of others. And I want to think it's just that, and they maybe just didn't handle it in the most awesome way.
Mhm.
But then some of the things he writes, I'm like, you know other people did this, right? Do you not know about the Aztecs? Like, I know.
Mhm.
I also wanted to mention, because I'm sure some listeners were like, question, China.
Sure.
Because, right, like we always see images of like rice paddies that are flooded with water, and that's how they're growing rice and
Mhm,
whatnot.
mhm.
Um, I'm sure it exists out there, but perhaps not in English language. Could not really find any good scientific information about any of that.
Yeah.
Like, I found some theoretical that, like one sounded very much like a Mother Goose story where it was like, and then the field flooded and they realized that the rice grew better. And I'm like, but
Oh, sure.
how do you know that? Maybe that is what happened. I don't know, but there was no
Well,
like clear thing. And then even the scientific articles that I was able to find about hydroponics in China focused on developments in the 1970s and later about how they're using those to grow rice.
mhm.
And I'm like, this doesn't really help what I'm trying to do here.
Right.
So if you feel like
Right.
China was left out, I promise you I did not want to, but I also didn't feel like we could say anything
Yeah.
that had
Well,
any merit.
I I also felt like folks should just take for granted that when we're talking about hydroponics, we are talking about growing plants without the benefit of the soil when they don't typically grow that way.
Right.
Right? Because there are plants that grow on the water.
Right.
And maybe they have long roots that get down to the soil at some point, but like they're mostly on the water. Like that's not, we were talking about
We
plants.
did talk about ever so briefly in that Francis Bacon quote.
Right. But we were talking about plants that's not typically how they grow.
Right. Francis Bacon's writings on the natural world are spectacular,
Mm-hmm.
wrong,
Mm-hmm.
very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to laugh at the man, but they didn't have stuff figured out yet.
Yeah. Well, and I say we still don't. I say in 400 years,
right.
People
We're still
will be
working
reading
on it.
Stuff that our scientists were incredibly confident about that we're not, in fact, all the way there.
Yeah. But also I love that, I don't have it open in front of me, but the way everything is phrased, it is like exactly what we're always told, especially, when we've worked in more journalistic efforts that you should not do, which is like, and some say, like, that's how everything in his list of natural things starts, which just cracks me up. I will also tell you about the very best, incorrect and beautiful transfer from a book that has been scanned in on Internet Archive to
Oh, I love it. Okay.
when you click the thing that says full text and it just takes you to a plain text version of it.
Yeah.
And often, there's machine reading going on. So often they don't get the words right.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I found what might be my new favorite word.
Mm-hmm.
Hydroponies. And I was like, this is a spin-off cartoon of My Little Pony, the Hydroponies that all have a garden. I don't know what's going on. But it happened repeatedly in one of the books, and I was cackling every time. It would be like, the merits of hydroponies, and I'd be like,
so funny.
Hydroponies.
When I was in college, I went to the National Conference on Undergraduate Research. And the university that was hosting it, people had sent in their abstracts for their papers that they were going to deliver at this conference. And they had been run through some kind of like OCR situation to turn the physical pieces of paper that we sent in with our transcripts. We sent in with our applications to transfer that into a book full of all of the abstracts. And this one person in one of the literature, she went to a different school, and she was talking about how at the very last minute, an advisor on her paper had said, well, so-and-so wasn't a modern poet, though. He was a postmodern poet. And she got very freaked out because in my memory, this was a woman. I could be making it up wrong, but she got very freaked out. She was like, oh no, when I sent in my abstract, did I say that this was a modern poet or did I say a postmodern poet? And because of the OCR process that had not gone flawlessly, her abstract said that this poet was a modem poet.
Oh, of course.
Neither one. I super love finding the wild, recognition errors in those kinds of things.
Me too.
When doing research for the show.
Hydroponies delighted me thoroughly. There was
That's great.
also, to go back to Garricky, a very funny, brief sort of description of him
Mm-hmm.
in a Time magazine write-up. And I don't know what they were getting at, so I will read it to you, and you tell me what you think. It reads, quote, "When news hawks ask him whether he expects to make a lot of money out of hydroponics, he just smiles, shows 2 gold teeth." The look on your face is so good. I don't know if they're saying, yes, he's flashy and he thinks he's going to make a bunch of money, or if they're like, he's just a dude with dental stuff going on. I don't know what they're saying.
Huh.
But I'm grateful for the work because I'm enjoying my
You're enjoying your hydroponic garden.
I am. I have like many things. I have, several dozen things growing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very exciting. It's very exciting. I will laugh and tell you this story, which is that I would say a solid 50 to 60% of the time when I tell someone that I have a hydroponic garden in my cantina, they immediately think I am growing drugs.
Right.
And I'm like, hello, it's romaine. I'm sorry. It's not very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm too square.
Yeah. More than 20 years ago, I knew somebody who had a hydroponic setup in the basement in a wardrobe, fully contained.
Right.
But even with the wardrobe doors closed, there was like a purple glow that would come out through the cracks, and was getting ready to sell his house and trying to figure out what to do because that setup was fully not legal in any way in North Carolina 20 however many years ago. And trying to think of a story to explain the strange wardrobe in the basement with a purple glow.
I really, really love bell peppers all year round. I'm like Tiberius. I need my fruits and vegetables every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very boring. The wildest thing I'm growing, which is not in the hydroponic garden, is a plant that is colloquially called a buzz button.
Mm-hmm.
This is also for cocktail purposes. It makes a little flower that it has a natural numbing, and it's gotten very, very popular in cocktails in the last few years, where like sometimes some places will put like a whole flower in a drink as a garnish. But also if you go to Galaxy's Edge and you've ordered a drink that has that foam on top, that's what it is. That's what's causing it. A fuzzy tauntaun. It just numbs your mouth a little bit while you drink. So that's the wildest thing I'm growing. The rest is like, ooh, purple cauliflower. Very wild.
This week, we talked about the great epizootic of 1872 by listener request.
Yeah.
A couple of things didn't make it into the episode because I couldn't figure out a great place to put them. One was that I don't know if this actually happened, but there was definitely rumors of kind of a horse speculation that was going on where people would buy critically ill horses for very low amounts of money, hoping to sell them if and when they recovered from the horse flu.
My gosh, horse flipping?
Yeah.
That's wild. It's wild.
It seems like, I don't know, I can imagine this really happening. But also once this was well underway, like word had really spread that this was a thing that most horses recovered from if they were allowed to rest and taken care of while they were sick. So it seems like the only people that would have been still working their horses really hard and then selling them off for cheap would have been horrible people. in my opinion.
Right.
Horrible people would do that.
Well, here's what I see as a possibility.
Okay.
People that were really struggling to survive without their day-to-day income.
Sure.
And some person swooped in and was like, and knew that the horse would probably recover and was like, I'll buy your horse.
Yeah.
And so it looked probably like a decent thing to be like, I'll get X amount of money today to feed my family.
Yeah.
But then like they would be kind of left in the lurch down the road. I could see that person who maybe wasn't able to let their horse rest or pay for treatment selling their horse.
You're being more sympathetic than me in this in this particular example.
I am, because people in desperate moments will make maybe not the best long-term decisions to survive.
Yeah, sure. I understand that. Usually I feel like, not usually. I think sometimes our positions are reversed in like who is having the most sympathetic read on a thing.
Well, it depends greatly on the thing.
Yeah.
There are places where I have grace and others where I do not.
Another thing that felt like a whole kind of big digression. So I originally had it in the outline and then I took it out. Was like it became pretty clear among people who knew what they were talking about that this was a contagion that was being spread. There were, of course, still people who thought that there was something else going on, but there was also an almost conspiracy theory put forth by this guy named Joseph Walkup, who was the editor of the Placer Herald, which was I don't remember what state the Placer Herald was in, but this was like in the mining country of the West. And he was not a fan of Ulysses Grant, or of General Philip Sheridan, and kind of cooked up this whole story claiming that after the Marius Massacre, which was 3 years before this, the army had stolen all of the indigenous people's horses and taken them to Canada, and that was what had introduced this disease to Canada in the first place. Which is just, like, this was way more about his disagreement with Grant and Grant's policies and Sheridan than anything actually about indigenous people or their horses. But it was kind of weird to see this conspiracy theory cooked up out of whole cloth in relation to this influenza outbreak among the horses. It is the second time in pretty recent memory that massacre has come up on the show. And I had said previously that it could be a whole episode of its own. So maybe that's a sign that it should be one in the nearish future. We'll see.
Maybe.
We, when I first got the listener request for this topic, I just thought that it was something that had been a lot more lethal to horses than it had been. I did not realize that, as you know, if horses were allowed to rest and care for, that most of them did recover. But the number of horses that died was still a major thing. Like that was still a major thing. And then the disruption while the horses were sick, also a really major thing. So I don't know for sure that bird flu is what prompted the episode request, but it does seem like it could have been.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
A reasonable information, a reasonable inspiration. I could have responded and asked, but I did not get that done before we came in here to record this.
I have been thinking, as we've been discussing this, that I was never a horse girl.
Yeah.
I never went through the horse phase. And I know why.
Okay.
Which is that, like, I think they're beautiful and I really like them as animals.
Yeah.
But I remember reading when I was very young, probably 8 or 9, that horses are always like a second away from madness.
Okay.
That whole thing that like they have an unpredictability that like they could, if startled, become essentially a different animal than you have known. And I think that rooted in my brain so hard that I'm like, I think you're beautiful, but I don't trust you for a second. Which I'm sure horse people listening to this are like, Holly.
Yeah.
But it's just it's the size combined with the possibility of unpredictable behavior that made me scared as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up kind of out in the country. Um, like I've talked about, we grew all our own vegetables. My neighbor had cows. My neighbor also had a pasture that he rented out for people to keep their horses in. And so whenever there were horses being kept in this pasture, we would walk down there with my mom and look at the horses. And I love to look at the horses. And I knew people through school or church who rode horses and took horseback riding lessons. And
Yeah.
in one case, had a horse of her own. I guess two cases. There was like one person who lived on a farm. They had horses. One person who was in the higher economic echelon of where I grew up and had a horse in a fancy way.
Yeah.
And like, I really wanted a horse, had no concept of how expensive a horse was. And in my head, I was like, but the neighbor has this pasture. The horse could live there. And it's like,
It'll be so easy.
It'll be so easy. That does not take into account anything involved with to stress this, I was a child again. Does not involve anything involving all of the expensive horses. What I did have though was a lot of My Little Ponies.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
sure did love the My Little Ponies. And boy, have I been getting a lot of advertisements on the internet about 40th anniversary collections
Yeah.
of the little ponies that I had as a child, which has
Yeah.
just kind of been causing me some existential feelings about the age that I am and how long ago 40 years was when I was a child getting the little ponies.
I am just enough older than you that My Little Ponies missed me by a year or two.
Yeah.
But I do remember the commercials distinctly.
Yeah.
I could still sing you, but I won't. The My Little Pony show stable commercial in its entirety. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want it. I just knew it.
Yeah. There was one year where I got the show stable for Christmas. My brother got this Skeletor castle thing from He-Man.
Yeah.
And my brother, quote, accidentally found the Christmas presents.
Yeah.
In quotation marks, accidentally.
Yeah. I know that accident. I had that same accident a few times.
Yeah. He accidentally we had in the basement, we had a basement with a concrete floor, and we would ride the big wheel in circles around the
Yeah.
middle
Sounds
of the
awesome.
basement. And he, quote, accidentally ran into this little metal storage thing that was in the basement, and it accidentally opened the door, and he accidentally saw what was inside, which was our Christmas present.
It's just a perfectly normal accident. I don't even understand.
Yeah, I was so livid about being told what was gonna be happening for Christmas.
You were?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to be surprised.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not how we worked it at our house at all.
No.
No. We literally would steam open the ends of wrapped packages, slide the box out, investigate and notate, slide it back in and retape it.
Yeah. Things that were already wrapped and under the tree, we
Yeah.
would kind of try to guess, but these were not wrapped yet. These were in hidden
Yeah,
place.
I still would have been fine because that was
Yeah.
where I could put in my tiny child planner all the ways I was going to play with it. That was like the way I engaged with pre-gift time gift information. I'd be like,
Sure.
and then I'm going to put the following 7 ponies in the following order in the show stable. Like that's how I would have done that.
Yeah.
Because I loved to know. I did have an accident that was a legit accident once that I cannot take full responsibility for because, as you know, I have been sewing since I was 3.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my mom used to do, and I'm not sure why it landed there, because she had like sewing areas in the house, but she used to, when I was very small, kept like a plastic bag of tiny scrap fabric and a plastic bag of yarn in her closet. And there had been times where I would be like, hey, do we have fabric this color I can use? And she'd be like, I don't know, go check the scrap bag. And I would. And one time, without asking her first, I went and checked the scrap bag and I found the Raggedy Ann doll that she had made me for Christmas. And it didn't even clock it that it was for me for Christmas. I literally walked out of her room going, oh my God, this is so cool. Who is it? What is this about? And she was just like horrified. And I was like,
oh no,
I was just trying to find yarn and fabric.
Yeah.
And I did, but it was formed into a cool thing already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I had that accident a few other times.
Yeah.
Accident with the air quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was much more cheerful than the general topic of the episode that inspired this conversation. Hey, whatever is coming up on your weekend, I hope it goes well. I know stuff is chaos for a lot of people right now. So I'm going to say just try to be kind to yourselves. I'm trying to be kind to myself, and sometimes it's easier than others, but try to be kind to yourselves, kind to other people. Let's be kind to my printer, which has chosen this moment to start cleaning itself. And I'm just going to continue recording over it rather than stopping like normal.
That printer just has needs. Let it happen. That's its self-care. It's fine.
Yes. So we'll be back tomorrow with a Saturday Classic and something brand new on Monday. Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.